Now that the first coat of quickset is dry, I'm going to take my putty knife. I'm just going to lightly go over it anywhere where I think there's high edges on it. I'm going to scrape those edges off. If I don't get those high edges off, then when I put the next coat on, I have to put that much more material over it, okay? There's some low edges on there, and I'm going to leave the low edges alone, okay? Because I know those will fill over with the next coat. You want to make sure you do this when it's dry enough. You don't want to do it too soon. And see, there's a couple high edges where I can just scrape that off and kind of contour exactly how I want it into the wall. Got just a little bit of a ridge there, and that's fine. It's coming off nice. Want to make sure not to take off too much, or else the webbing tape is going to show. We don't want that. I can kind of clean up the inside edge there, so when I put my next coat on, it's going to go on there a little bit straighter this time. I'm just using my 3-inch putty knife for this. Doesn't take very long to do. You want to get in the habit of doing this before putting on any more mud. You don't want to think, oh, I don't need to do that. Joe spends too much time on his patches. We could just go over that fine. Well, yeah, you could go over it, but you're just not going to get a nice clean edge, you know, on the corners like this if you don't do this, or for whatever. I don't want to put any more mud on here than I have to for the next coat, and that's why I want those ridges off of there, okay? So that didn't take very long. I'm going to continue doing that over my other patches. I might as well get these two since I'm right here. Because I've got my trusty light on here, I can lightly scrape that. You don't have to get it perfect around the edges because the next coat's going to blend in a little bit further than that too, okay? There we go. This just assures that your next coat's going to go on there without having too many high edges to cover, okay? That's all I've got to do. I see the tape is peeking out just a little bit, and that's fine. The next coat is going to cover that just peachy. That's why I like to put 2 coats of quickset. After I get the first coat on and I lightly scrape it like this, I put a second coat, and that fills up all the nooks and crannies and gets a second helping of mud over the tape and the low spots and all that. And see that right there, there was a little high ridge and I just wiped it off. Because I've got my light on here, I can see exactly where I need to go on the high bits and which bits are the low. Man, this patch is going to look good when I get done with it. Now some people, when they put the quickset on, they just put one coat, a thick coat, over the tape, and then they call it good, and they'll put the the all-purpose joint compound over that. Okay, well, I don't do it that way. I like to put just a little bit more quickset on there and get it that much better before I do that. Because I'm not a professional like sheetrocker guys are, and neither are you. That's why you need to keep watching my videos, because if I can do it, you can do it. Here's another good practice to get into. When you've got corner bead, metal corner bead, plastic corner bead, whatever, as you're finishing it, I always like to get the extra excess mud off of it. I know I still got some work on here. This is only the first coat, but it then kind of helps me determine whether or not I've got too much on there, and I can kind of taper it back off or whatever, and it will make the next coat go on that much better without having a high ridge there. And when I get all done, I'm going to sand that. It's going to be a nice straight edge with no spray texture over it. I'll have to tell the guy when he spray textures, make sure to wipe that off and sand that edge before they paint. Okay, but if I do that now, the texture's going to go on there nice. We're not going to have any bulges going over that. If you don't watch it, you may think you've got a nice straight edge, and then later on you think, hey, Joe scratched his off, and you try to do that later and you think, oh my, there's a big hump here. I can't scrape too much off because I scraped too much off, and now I scrape off too much of the spray texture, and now I've got a flat spot right there because I scraped off all the texture to get it back down flush to where it needed to go. You know? You just be aware of your corners. That shows a sign of good workmanship, nice tight straight corners. That's what I like. You know, if you're covering you're doing some patches, just some small little patches like this, don't forget to hit those. You may think, oh, those are fine, there's hardly anything. Well, I've seen it where sometimes somebody leaves too much on here, and then the next time they do just right here, and then all of a sudden you see this whole outline after somebody paints because it didn't get tapered in or the spray texture got on there, and you can see underneath the spray texture, oh, there's a patch, boom, boom, boom. Okay, so check all your areas on your walls. Well, that's pretty much it on getting ready for the second coat. You just want to keep checking your different areas, okay? And do all of your patch areas. I'm going to finish that up, and then I'll show you how I put the second coat on.